places on this planet that seem impossible, places where the Earth looks carved by machines, sorted by architects, painted by designers who never existed. When you first see them, your mind resists. It searches for the human hand behind the pattern, the factory that stamped out the shapes, the artist who mixed the colors. But there is no hand, no factory, no artist, only time, pressure, chemistry, and chance. Nature does not need intention to create order. It does not need a plan to build geometry. And in certain corners of the world, it has produced landscapes so precise, so vivid, so unnaturally symmetrical that they force us to ask, what does natural even mean? This is a journey to 10 places where that question becomes impossible to answer. Where the line between accident and design dissolves completely. Where the Earth itself looks like a forgery of something that was never real to begin with. Number 1. Rikat Structure, Mauritania. In the emptiness of the Sahara, visible only from the sky, there is a perfect circle carved into the desert floor, the Rikat structure. 40 kilometers wide, concentric rings of stone radiating outward like the cross-section of a tree, or the blueprint of a lost civilization. For decades, people believed it was an impact crater, the scar of a meteor strike. Others thought it was ruins, an ancient city swallowed by sand. But there was no impact, no city. The Rikat structure is a geological dome that eroded inward, layer by layer, over millions of years. Different types of rock wore away at different speeds, carving rings so symmetrical they look surveyed. From above, it resembles a target, a dial, a landing pad for something that never came. The Earth simply folded, rose, and crumbled in a pattern so deliberate it feels planned. Stand at the center, and you see only sand and rock. Rise into the air, and the design appears. Nature drawing perfect circles with no compass at all. Number 2. Tsingy de Bamaraha, Madagascar. There is a forest in Madagascar made entirely of stone, not petrified trees, but spires of limestone rising in jagged vertical rows, sharp enough to slice skin, packed so tightly you cannot walk between them. The Tsingy de Bamaraha, a stone labyrinth covering hundreds of square kilometers, each needle pointed skyward, like the teeth of a saw or the spines of some ancient creature. It looks manufactured, industrial, like the remnants of a Gothic cathedral left to collapse, or a field of metal spikes planted to keep something out. But no one built this. Rain did. Over millennia, acidic water dissolved the limestone unevenly, eating away softer channels and leaving the hardest stone standing. What remains is a gridwork of blades and ravines, a natural ironworks forged by chemistry and erosion. Walk above it and the forest looks impassable, almost hostile. Descend into the canyons between the spires and you realize the stone is hollow beneath, carved into caves and tunnels by the same water that shaped the surface. A fortress with no architect, a maze with no designer. Number 3. Caño Cristalis, Colombia. For most of the year, it is an ordinary river, clear water flowing over gray stone. But between June and November, the riverbed ignites. Caño Cristalis becomes a liquid rainbow, streaked with red, yellow, green, and blue, so vivid they look painted. The colors move with the current, shifting and blending like dye poured into water. It does not look real. It looks like post-production, like a filter, like something added afterward. But the colors are alive. They come from aquatic plants called Macarenia clavigera, which bloom in masses along the riverbed when the water level drops and the sunlight strengthens. Red dominates, but algae and sand add yellow and green, and the water itself stays blue. The result is a spectrum laid across stone, a chromatic river that exists for only a few months each year. Stand at the edge, and the water looks artificial, too bright, too saturated. Kneel closer, and you see the plants swaying beneath the surface, painting the current in real time. A river that looks like an illusion, made entirely of life. Number 4. White Desert Talk Formations. Egypt. The western desert of Egypt holds a landscape that feels extraterrestrial. The White Desert, a flat expanse of pale sand scattered with enormous chalk sculptures, each one rising like a monument, carved into shapes that defy randomness. Mushrooms, pillars, spirals, arches. Some resemble animals, others look like abstract art. All of them are white, luminous, glowing under the sun and moon as if lit from within. They look deliberate, placed, as if someone arranged them according to a pattern only they understood. But wind carved them. Over tens of thousands of years, sand carried by desert storms abraded the soft chalk unevenly, smoothing some surfaces and hollowing others, sculpting forms that mimic intentional design. The desert became a gallery, and erosion became the artist. At night, under starlight, the formations turn ghostly. They cast long shadows across the sand, and the silence makes them feel even more unnatural. Monuments to nothing, built by no one, standing in a place where creation looks effortless. Number 5. Beta B Sirte Terraces, Iran. In the mountains of northern Iran, there is a cascade frozen in stone, Bada-B-Sirte, a series of terraced pools stacked like stairs, each one rimmed with mineral deposits in shades of orange, red, and rust. Water flows over the edges, filling the pools and spilling into the next, and the stone beneath glows as if lit by fire. It looks engineered, like an ancient bathhouse carved into the hillside, or a stairway built for giants. But these terraces are travertine, formed by mineral-rich water seeping up from underground springs. As the water evaporates, calcium carbonate and iron oxide are left behind, building layers of stone slowly, imperceptibly, over thousands of years. The pools are not carved, they are grown, deposited molecule by molecule until they resemble architecture. The colors shift depending on the minerals present and the angle of the light. In some seasons, the terraces look golden, in others, blood red. Stand at the top and the staircase descends before you, perfect and symmetrical, built by nothing but chemistry and time. Number 6. Mo Rocky Boulders, New Zealand. On a gray stretch of beach in New Zealand, dozens of massive spheres lie half buried in the sand, the Mo Rocky Boulders. Some are small, the size of a human head. Others are enormous, over 2 meters in diameter, weighing several tons. They are almost perfectly round, smooth, and gray, scattered along the shore like cannonballs fired by something incomprehensibly large. They look placed, manufactured, like giant marbles dropped by accident, or the remnants of some industrial process long forgotten. But they formed on the seafloor millions of years ago through a process called concretion, where minerals slowly accumulated around a core, layer by layer, forming a sphere. Over time, erosion exposed them, and the ocean delivered them to the beach. Some have cracked open, revealing hollow centers with crystalline walls. Others remain intact, massive and mysterious. Walk among them and the scale becomes overwhelming. They feel too perfect, too uniform, too intentional. Spheres that nature should not know how to make, sitting on a beach as if waiting to be discovered. Number 7. Lake Natron, Tanzania. In the shadow of an active volcano in Tanzania lies a lake that turns animals to stone, Lake Natron. Its surface shimmers in shades of red and pink, shifting like oil on water. And along the shore, the bodies of birds and bats lie calcified, preserved in mineral crusts so thick they resemble statues. The lake looks toxic, supernatural, like a place designed to punish the living. And in a way, it is. The water is so alkaline it burns skin, with a pH level high enough to rival bleach. The red color comes from microorganisms that thrive in the extreme heat and salinity, blooming in massive colonies that stain the water. Animals that die in the lake become coated in sodium carbonate, which hardens around them, turning flesh into mineral. Stand at the edge, and the reflections on the surface distort everything. The sky turns pink, the shore turns white with salt. The lake feels more like a chemical spill than a natural body of water, a place where the rules of biology seem suspended. Yet it is natural, sustained entirely by volcanic activity and evaporation, a lake that preserves death in stone. Number 8. Danakil Depression, Ethiopia. There is a place on Earth that looks like another planet, the Danakil Depression, a volcanic basin below sea level, scorched by heat that regularly exceeds 50 degrees Celsius, covered in pools of acid, geysers of steam, and fields of sulfur in neon yellow and green. The ground is cracked and brittle, the air smells of sulfur, and the colors are so unnatural they seem radioactive. Pools of hydrochloric acid bubble and hiss, their surfaces glowing yellow and orange from dissolved minerals. Salt flats stretch for kilometers, pure white and blindingly bright under the sun. Lava lakes glow red in the distance, feeding the landscape with molten rock that hardens into jagged black towers. It looks hostile, alien, uninhabitable, a place designed to repel life. But the Danakil is not hostile by design. It is simply geologically active, a place where the Earth's crust is tearing apart, exposing the raw processes beneath. The colors come from sulfur, iron, and other minerals leaching to the surface. The heat comes from magma pushing upward from the mantle. Walk through it, and the landscape feels too vivid, too extreme, too perfectly hostile to be real. A land forged by fire and acid, glowing like a warning. Number 9. Pamukkale, Turkey. On a hillside in southwestern Turkey, terraces of white stone cascade down the slope like a frozen waterfall. Pamukkale, the cotton castle. Each terrace forms a shallow pool filled with bright blue water, the edges gleaming white against the surrounding landscape. From a distance, it looks like snow. Up close, it looks like porcelain. It feels sculpted, layered intentionally, as if someone carved the hillside into a staircase for bathing. But Pamukkale is built by geothermal springs. Hot water rich in calcium carbonate flows down the slope, and as it cools, the minerals precipitate out, forming travertine terraces layer by layer. The pools fill, overflow, and deposit more stone, building the hillside gradually over thousands of years. The white comes from the calcium. The blue comes from the water. The precision comes from nothing but gravity and chemistry. Stand at the top, and the terraces descend like steps into the valley. The water is warm, still fed by the same springs that built the stone. Walk barefoot across the formations, and the surface feels smooth, almost soft, as if the mineral is still forming beneath your feet. A castle built by water, white and glowing, growing imperceptibly every day. Number 10. Mount Roraima, Venezuela. At the border of Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana, there is a mountain that does not taper. It does not slope. It rises vertically from the jungle and ends in a flat summit 2,000 meters above the forest floor. Mount Roraima, a tabletop mountain or tepui, its walls sheer and black, its top wreathed in clouds. From below, it looks like a plateau carved with tools, a monolith placed deliberately in the wilderness. The summit is a world unto itself. The surface is bare sandstone, worn smooth by rain and wind, broken into canyons and ravines that fill with mist. Plants grow nowhere else on Earth. The rock is ancient, 2 billion years old, among the oldest exposed formations on the planet. It looks constructed, geometric, impossible, as if someone lifted a piece of the earth and left it hovering above the jungle. But Roraima is a remnant. It is what remains after millions of years of erosion wore away the surrounding landscape, leaving only the hardest stone standing. The summit was once part of a vast plateau that covered the region. Now it floats, isolated, unreachable except by a single narrow path. Stand at the edge, and the jungle spreads below like a green ocean, and the mountain feels like an island suspended in time, carved by nothing but the slow removal of everything around it. There is no factory stamping out stone spheres on a New Zealand beach, no engineer laying terraces in the Iranian mountains, no designer mixing the colors of a Colombian river. And yet, the patterns exist, the symmetry, the precision, the order. Nature has no blueprint, but it builds as if it does. It has no intention, but it creates as if guided by one. And that is the paradox. The places that look most artificial are the places where natural forces worked without interruption, without interference, without thought. Time, pressure, chemistry, and chance are architects enough. We search for design because our minds are wired to see it. We look for the hand that placed the boulders, the artist who painted the river, the builders who carved the mountain. But the hand is wind. The artist is water. The builders are minerals and heat and erosion, working on scales too large and too slow for us to witness. What looks impossible is simply patient. What looks planned is simply persistent. And what looks artificial is often the purest expression of nature left alone. Perhaps nothing looks natural at first glance,